So first thing we do, we'll look at two countries and kind of what are their production schedules. So as it says here, in 1 hour of time, the United States can produce 10 calculators or two cell phones. So I made this chart down here, right? Here's the United States. They can make 10 calculators in an hour, or they can make two cell phones. Now, if we look at Mexico, we could say that in 1 hour of time, Mexico can produce three calculators, right? So here's 1 hour, or one cell phone. So here you have the one cell phone. So they can do one or the other within an hour. If they wanted to do both, then it would take 1 hour to do this and an additional 1 hour to do this. So here's the production schedules for both countries, right? The United States, in 1 hour, they can make 10 calculators, and Mexico in 1 hour can make three calculators. And the United States in 1 hour can make two cell phones, and Mexico in 1 hour could make one cell phone. So let's take a look at Mexico. As it says here, in 1 hour, Mexico can produce either a single cell phone, right here, or three calculators, right? One of those things, three calculators or one cell phone. That means for every cell phone that Mexico produces in an hour, it gives up the possibility of producing three calculators, right? If I'm going to spend an hour producing this, then I won't be making this. So the cost of the cell phone is three calculators. The cost, our opportunity cost to make this, is sacrificing these three things. And then likewise, what is the cost for every calculator that Mexico produces? Well, it's sacrificed for every one calculator. If it takes an hour to make these three calculators in 1/3 of the hour, it could have made 1/3 of the cell phone, but it can't because it made this instead. And then after 2/3 of an hour has gone by, they've made two calculators, or they gave up making 2/3 of the cell phone. And after a full hour has gone by, they completed all three calculators and they gave up the opportunity to make the entire cell phone. So what we have here then is the cost of production. The cost of production for one calculator is 1/3 of a cell phone, right? One calculator to make this thing cost me the opportunity to make this 1/3 of a cell phone. And one cell phone cost me three calculators. If I had made one cell phone, I could not have made these three calculators in the same hour. All right, so that's Mexico. The United States, their chart shows that in an hour they can make 10 calculators. So here's five, and here's five more, or two cell phones. Here's one cell phone, and here's another. So in the United States, in an hour, either two cell phones can be produced, one, two, or 10 calculators, 5, 10. To get the opportunity cost, we look to see how many calculators do we sacrifice producing for every single cell phone we make instead. So we can see that for every one cell phone we make, I gave up the opportunity to make 5 calculators. And likewise, for the calculators, we also need to see the cost is what the cost is for making calculators instead of cell phones. We could see that for every one calculator, we instead could have created 1/5 of a cell phone, right? So in 1/5, so if this is 1 hour production, right? In 1 hour, I could make 10 calculators, or in 1 hour, I could make two cell phones. Well then, if I'm looking at the cost of one cell phone, if it takes me 1 hour to make two, that means it takes me 30 minutes to make one. Likewise, if it takes me 1 hour to make 10 calculators, that means half of that, 30 minutes, half of 1 hour is 30 minutes, half of 10 is 5. So in 30 minutes, I could make 5 calculators or one cell phone. So that means if there are 5 calculators, it takes me 6 minutes to make a calculator. So in 6 minutes, I could have made one calculator or 1/5 of a cell phone. And in 12 minutes, I could have made two calculators or 2/5 of a cell phone. And in 18 minutes, I could have made three calculators or 3/5 of a cell phone. And in 24 minutes, I could have made four calculators or 4/5 of a cell phone. And then in 30 minutes, I could have made all 5 calculators or one entire cell phone, right? So that is the trade-off cost there. So as you can see in the United States, the cost of one calculator is 1/5 of a cell phone, right? One calculator here costs 1/5 of the cell phone. And likewise, for one cell phone, it costs me 5 calculators. So one entire cell phone or 5 calculators. It's one or the other. So we can look at the combined cost, right? So for Mexico, to make one single calculator, it costs them 1/3 of a cell phone, whereas in the United States, to make one single calculator, it costs them 1/5 of a cell phone. And for the cell phones, to make one single cell phone, it costs Mexico 3 calculators. And to make one cell phone, it costs the United States 5 calculators, right? So that is the opportunity cost, right? The opportunity cost to make one cell phone, Mexico gives up the opportunity to make 3 calculators. In the United States, to make one cell phone, they give up the opportunity to make 5 calculators. All right, so who should make what? So this is where you need to get into what's known as specialization. All right, and the idea of trade is you specialize in one product, another nation specializes in another product, and then you share. And the goal is that the sharing would be mutually advantageous to both of you. So we see that the United States should make calculators and Mexico should make cell phones. Why? As it says down here, the USA sacrifices 1/5 of a cell phone for each calculator it makes. Mexico sacrifices 1/3 of a cell phone for each calculator it makes. Right? So what are you sacrificing? Well, the United States sacrifices less. 1/5 is less than 1/3, right? 1 divided by 5 is 0.2, and 1 divided by 3 is 0.33. 0.2 is less than 0.33. I give up less. If I'm going to make a calculator, I'm giving up less. I'm only giving up 1/5 of the cell phone. Mexico gives up 1/3. Now, it might make more sense over here when you're dealing with whole numbers. What about cell phones? Well, to make a cell phone, Mexico gives up making 3 calculators. And to make one cell phone, the United States gives up making 5 calculators. 3 is less than 5. So to make one cell phone, it costs Mexico less. It only costs them 3 calculators, and it costs the United States 5. And if you notice, these are inverses of each other, right? 3 and 1/3 are opposites, right? If you took 3, 3 is the same as 3 over 1, so the inverse is 1 over 3. 5 is the same as 5 over 1, and the inverse is 1 over 5. So the opportunity cost is just the inverse. But if that's too complicated, don't worry about it. So that's the cost. So we determined that the United States should make calculators because it gives up its opportunity cost, it sacrifices less. And we've determined that Mexico should make cell phones because it gives up less, right? 3 is less than 5, it gives up less calculators to do that. This is probably the most confusing part for people. So if it doesn't make sense, just rewatch it and hopefully it does, or contact me if you have questions. All right, so how should we trade? So as it says over here, now that Mexico is going to specialize, that is, they're going to focus on one single thing in the production of cell phones. They're going to specialize in the production of cell phones. This is what Mexico is going to make, cell phones. We can go back to our chart and go back to our schedule, production schedule, and see that it takes Mexico an hour to produce a single cell phone, right? So this was a production chart for an hour of work. They could make, in an hour, they could make one cell phone, or in an hour, they could make 3 calculators. And we've decided they're going to work on cell phones. So Mexico is now going to make 2 cell phones, right? Because they're going to want a cell phone and they're going to want to trade a cell phone to the United States. So it's going to take them 2 hours of work. They're going to spend 2 hours, and in 2 hours they'll make 2 cell phones, right? If in 1 hour they could make 1 cell phone, then in 2 hours they can make 2 cell phones. So after Mexico makes 2 cell phones, it is going to give after Mexico makes 2 cell phones, it is going to give 1 to the USA for some calculators, right? So Mexico is going to take this cell phone, one of the 2 that they make, they're going to give 1 to the USA, and they're going to want some calculators in return. To make this worth Mexico's time, they need to get more than 3 calculators, right? If I could spend 1 hour making a cell phone and 1 hour making 3 calculators, then I could spend 2 hours to make 1 cell phone and 3 calculators. So it's not going to be worth my time to trade if my numbers are the same. If I make 2 cell phones and I trade 1 cell phone for 3 calculators, well, then I spent 2 hours and traded and got nothing more for it. So what I want to do is I want to get more than I could have made on my own. So if I'm going to trade 1 cell phone, I'm going to want to get more than 3 calculators. As it says down here, why? Because in 2 hours, Mexico could make 1 cell phone and 3 calculators. It's not worth trading unless it gets more than it could have gotten on its own. All right, what about the USA? The USA is going to specialize in the production of calculators. This is what the USA is going to make. Mexico needs calculators. The USA can make 5 calculators in the time it takes to make a cell phone, right? If we went back to our schedule, we saw that the United States could make a single cell phone or it could make 5 calculators. And we've decided they're going to make calculators. If the USA is going to trade, it will want to give Mexico less than 5 calculators for a cell phone, right? If I can make 5 calculators or a cell phone, why would I give Mexico all 5 of my calculators for a cell phone? I could just make the cell phone myself. So if I'm going to give them calculators, I'm going to want to give them less than what I could have made done on my own, so less than 5. So the trade agreement. So remember, Mexico is going to make 2 cell phones. Right? They're going to make 2 of these and give one to the USA for some calculators. The USA is going to make calculators, so it's going to make these and give some number to Mexico for a cell phone. So like I said before, Mexico needs to get more than 3 calculators for a cell phone. Otherwise, it is pointless to trade. Right? If it's going to give one of these up, it needs to get more than this. The USA needs to give less than 5 calculators. Right? If I could make this or this, it's not worth it to trade 5 calculators for 1 cell phone. So I'm going to want to trade less than 5 calculators for a cell phone. So you can probably imagine what the number they agree to might be. The United States is going to give 4 calculators to Mexico for a cell phone, and Mexico is going to give 1 cell phone to the USA for 4 calculators. As it says here, so if Mexico is going to give the USA one of their 2 cell phones, and it needs to get more than 3 calculators, and the USA needs a cell phone, but it has to pay less than 5 calculators, they agree on 4 calculators for 1 cell phone. So after the trade, Mexico has 1 cell phone and 4 calculators. They spent 2 hours working, right? 2 hours of work, and they got 1 cell phone and 4 calculators. If they had done each themselves, it would have taken them 1 hour to produce 3 calculators and 1 hour to produce 1 cell phone. So for 2 hours of work, they would have had 1 cell phone and 3 calculators. But now for 2 hours of work, they have 1 cell phone and 4 calculators. So as it says here, Mexico after trading has 1 cell phone and 4 calculators for 2 hours of work. Our chart we looked at in the beginning showed that in 1 hour, Mexico could have made 3 calculators or a single cell phone, which means for 2 hours of work, Mexico could have made 1 cell phone and 3 calculators. 1 hour, the second hour. But now, after 2 hours of work, they have 1 cell phone and 4 calculators. They profited from trade. And then the USA. We also learned that the USA could either produce 1 cell phone in 30 minutes or 5 calculators in 30 minutes. Well, after 30 minutes of work, they made 5 calculators, gave 4 to Mexico for a cell phone. And now after 30 minutes of work, the USA has 1 cell phone and 1 calculator, right? If they had spent the 30 minutes just making a cell phone, that's all they would have had, right? The United States could have spent 30 minutes making a single cell phone. Well, after 30 minutes, they now have their cell phone that they got from Mexico. And in addition, they have an extra calculator because they focused on making calculators and trading them. So as it says here, if the USA made the cell phone themselves, it would have taken 30 minutes and all they would have is the cell phone. But now, in addition to the cell phone, they also have the calculator. They profited from trade. And so that's just to kind of show that how trade works and how it could be mutually advantageous to do this. And if you need to watch this again, feel free.